Okay, this is Travis in the Uncanny Valley. Um, I taking another stab at this. I want to talk about how important it is that I talk to myself, and then I can't really discuss that without, or logically discuss that without talking about um, the huge problem uh, that method has been. Um, because I didn't change it in any way when talking with my wife, or sometimes others too. But mostly the problems were apparent when I was talking with my wife, whether just conversations or arguments or whatever. But um, so yeah, so talking to myself, that is critical. Um, it's it's how I form my thoughts. So I have previously described my thoughts as kind of like when I visualize it, because I have to visualize it to be able to talk about it. Um, I picture like just a black void, and then thoughts and discussing non tangible things like emotions and relationships and things like that are just like this smoke, this kind of ether that until it can be put down plainly on paper in clear words that can be referred back to um, and processed over time, then they're not. It's not that they're not real or not legitimate, but they're not something I can do anything with. So, um, what I am explicitly trying to do by talking to myself is to um, form my thoughts from all of the raw data I have inside my head on a topic. Um, kind of figure out where I stand on something, because that's the point at which I work it out. So it's not that I'm changing my mind, even, it's that that's how I go through the process of understanding my view of something. So it's by virtue of spewing out all the raw data I have in my head on something that I evaluate what is true to me and what is not, and what is maybe something that I had associated with um, a topic. And but once I'm doing going through the process of verbalizing it, um, and trying to formalize my view, that's a time where I'll see like, well, that doesn't really fit. I had maybe associated that um, analogy or that phrase with this for years, but now that I'm actually going through this, I see that uh, that doesn't really hold water, or or it goes against my principles, and it was wrong or unfruitful to keep associating it with this. Um, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure stuff out, and um, I had for a while thought I was a verbal processor, but I couldn't figure out why there was a disconnect between uh, when someone else is talking, or I'm reading, or whatever it is. If someone's telling me something about uh, a place that I vaguely know or something, or I can't picture, I will ask questions. I'll need to first know where this thing was so I can get a visual, and then I can, as they say sentences, I can build the picture in my head. Um, so I was trying to figure out for a while why it is that I am a visual. I don't know processor, but understander, whatever. Like I save visual data, I archive visual data from stories people tell me, from things people tell me. But then for myself, I felt like I was a verbal processor. I thought it was the act of speaking that lets me process it. And that is an integral part of it. So that is totally part of it. Um, and this is a good example because I was going to say I'm not a verbal processor, but as I'm doing this, I am now able to see that that is a critical part of it because that's how I that's how I form the concept, but I form it with my words, and then I'm seeing it visually, like an overlay, and then from there I'm able to ingest it back in as images. So whatever that is all together is what I do. Um, what it is not is it is not um, anything like schizophrenia or multiple personality disorders if I involve other personalities or other people in a fake conversation, because I'll also flesh out like hypothetical conversations. That's just trying to have some uh, kind of basic level of theory of mind on behalf of, um, a fictional conversation for the purposes of me, very much a straw man, other person, just to kind of help me go through the motions of formalizing how I would go about saying this. Because it's one thing to know where you stand on a topic from having said it and processed that, but it's a different thing to know how you would go about communicating that. So I do have other people in my conversations where I talk to myself, but they are not real. I don't believe they're real, and I know they're not real. They're knowingly me. Uh, and then it's not a hallucination. Like I'm doing it now. I'm talking to myself right now. I just happen to be recording it. I could have had the same exact conversation on the way home from work in my vehicle, and I would have not. I would have been talking to myself the exact same. So that's what it's not. Um, but it is kind of another uh, opportunity for me to ruminate on something. To like, I might have a conversation with someone, um, or witness a conversation between other people, and just think and think on that. This gives me the chance to do that before I actually have the conversation. I mean, it helps me know if I want to have the conversation, if it's something I would be saying, kind of by having that fake conversation. I know where I would naturally lead the conversation. So if someone wants to bring it up, and I know that's not a good time to go on that path I have planned out, then I can abstain. Um, or alternately, I can bring it up myself because I feel confident from having had the conversation where I talk to myself and kind of figured it out. As far as the advantages, we'll do that first because that's a shorter list. Um, it's all advantages. How is that a shorter list? Well, because when I'm talking to myself, actually to myself, um, it's a safe space for me to do that because I am fully aware that these are all just rough draft words, trial thoughts. Um, it's unfiltered. It's just, I'm just spewing, vomiting out everything I have uh, to get this figured out. Um, so, really, honestly, the pitfalls, there aren't any that I know of at the moment. Um, the pitfalls associated with this is because I did not realize how damaging this was to do with another person. So while I was um, at a very basic level aware of what I was doing uh, by data dumping all this stuff for the purposes of figuring out my thoughts, um, it took me until this like past week to realize that that's what I'm doing um, with other people. So I'm saying things that are uh, unfiltered, not even thoughts. They're pre-thoughts. They're like the premise to my thought. Um, and I'm exposing the untranslated and unexplained worldview. So I mean, this worldview that I speak from, that I feel confident in, based on my decades of observing social situations or whatever it is I've been observing. Um, I'm confident in that it works. It's a working model for me, and I know it's not accurate, but it's what I draw from. Just like you have a worldview that's been informed by all of your experiences, and that's what you draw from. Um, but the reason this is so hurtful, or has been hurtful, is because I'm exposing my source code, as it were. I'm exposing the oftentimes the unflattering, uh, unflinching view of the world in in its hurtful state as I've experienced it. So it comes off that, or it can come off that I am hurtful because I'm unflinching when I share this view. Um, and I have had a huge blind spot about this, how harmful and how damaging it was, um, because I would say something in either a conversation or an argument, or just talking about something. I would say, um, especially if I'm trying to figure out something, my thoughts on a topic, I'll say I'll say something, and then the other person might say, you know, uh, taken aback and caught off guard. How can you say that? And I might genuinely reply, well, that's not what I'm saying, because what I'm saying in my mind is going to be the end product. The end product is going to be what I'm saying. This is just me hashing out, uh, trying to get to that end product. So say, well, that's not what I'm saying. I know I said those words. Well, you just said it, you know, and me trying to over explain, which is additional data dumping, um, instead of just, uh, well, basically, what I just came to realize was that I didn't realize this is what I was doing. So there's about no chance that the other person ever would have known that that's what I was doing, because I am saying these words. And I never disputed that. I was trying to feebly articulate that I'm saying those words, but that's not my point. And it would be hard for the other person, understandably, to know how I could be saying these words if that's not my point, or if it's at least not informing my point, when I'm just trying to get to figuring out what it is uh, that I'm saying. So I would be sharing hurtful understandings of observed behavior um, as my true observations, things that I have experienced firsthand or witnessed, and done in that way, it would come off that that is my worldview, my choice of a worldview, even. And I understand now why that was so off putting, and that it reasonably, in fact, uh, appeared as if I were saying much of this stuff uh, from myself, and was a proponent of the things that I was saying, when that's in fact not what I was doing. But I didn't realize that, and like I say, the other person couldn't have realized that, and it's just it's uh, it's hard to come to this realization at this point, at this late date, knowing all of the hurt that I've caused. Um, it's not that I would never say anything outright hurtful of my own. I have done that at times, but uh, so much of the pain has been caused by the confusion, and my desire to data dump. Um, and then that would also tie into appearing to be defensive. Um, so if I end up getting a mind map of these topics and videos, then this will be connected loosely with appearing defensive. Um, Appearing defensive is basically, in me, rooted in three things. It was uh, that, um, well, maybe four. I'll just go through them. So it's my my deep-seated desire for uh, deep, sustained emotional connection in relationships. Uh, Secondly, it's that my mind blindness uh, and my desire for equality uh, both inform my wanting to give you the raw data. So rather than tell you a view that I've come to, I alone, and just tell you that, I often want to share all the data with you because I want you to get there with me. I want you to take the same journey and get there. But I also don't want to project, just simply project on you my outcome, where I'm at, and then make you accept it at face value. So there's that also. Um, but then also, it would appear defensive because uh, I'm doing this while slightly disassociating, because that's the third thing. But I'm able to disassociate because I'm just giving you the raw information. I don't need to be as present for this because it's hard to be in the moment when I'm trying to access my visual data files to share uh, and essentially read from them, and recall a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to share. So there was mild disassociation, and then also that, by its very nature, is a form of reacting, because it's as if you pushed a button, uh, in my mind, requesting that I tell you everything I know about this thing. And that might have just been by saying, I don't think this is the way this thing is. And I might say, oh, this is the way I think this thing is, and just tell you everything I know about it. And, but in many circumstances, that would appear defensive. And that is I just want to say, That is an insanely reasonable take on uh, looking back. That is a very reasonable take on what all of those things were doing collectively. That would appear defensive. I know I wasn't being defensive because uh, at no point was I trying to defend my view. Um, I would be offering it up uh, seemingly objectively because while I might weight all of the information I'm providing differently than you, I'm not fabricating the information. I'm saying, here's all the information that I have, anecdotal or otherwise, but I'm meaning to provide the raw data and with my kind of synopsis of how I interpret it the way I do. And it needs no defense because I'm just telling you how I understand that information, um, and how I'm processing it. So it didn't ever make sense to me, and it uh, how I could just pacify that mischaracterization uh, as of my being defensive, because I knew I wasn't, and I didn't have the awareness of what all was going into my reaction, not response, notably. But I didn't know what all was going into that to where I could have said what it was, or to have been present enough to stop. But here's the good thing. Um, while I continue to apologize for uh, the different things I've done on this that have in this area that have been hurtful, and I'll continue to do that as I understand more and more about it. Um, One of the positive takeaways, one of the best practices going forward, is that again, a little humbling and humiliating that I didn't understand this before now, but um, I, instead of trying to just react, or not trying to react, but instead of so willingly, I felt I was being cooperative by offering up all the information that no one ever wants. Um, Instead of reacting by just giving more information than the other person ever wants, um, if I haven't figured out my thoughts on something, I'm not going to go through my talking it out, talking to myself process with you. My goal, anyways, my goal is that I will say, I'm not sure how to think on that. Let me get back to you. It's so simple now. And then I can go by myself, like I am capable of doing, and and just do this on my own. I can just flesh out my ideas. I can write things down on paper. I can make an outline. I can do anything I need to do to research it and to really uh, meditate on the words at hand and not be distracted by the hurt that those words are causing, and then further distracted by uh, my own confusion about why um, constituent thoughts are causing pain when that's not what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, I've got a long way to go, and yeah, here's a couple things that I made a short list of things I could apologize for. I not like I was doing it on purpose, this one, but I could apologize for and will apologize for not having understood this sooner. I mean, uh, it's been confusing for me, so it's not that it was anything malicious, but definitely this is a good one for my immature reactions during my unfiltered chatter, because my chatter was. Uh, getting very understandable, reasonable responses. And my lack of understanding what I was doing, uh, I reacted. I was possibly defensive about that but I was definitely reacting in immature ways. That's something I can definitely admit. Um, but I expected others to understand my thought forming process when I hadn't even fully known or understood it myself. I mean, I it's one of those many things where I didn't necessarily assume this is how everyone did it, but I didn't have the presence of mind to know that uh, it's very likely that I'm doing it a way that you're not doing it, and I shouldn't uh, expect you to understand that this is what I'm doing because, like I say, I couldn't have articulated it. Uh, thinking, thinking I was being uh, understood yet attacked. Um, I'm not sure what that point is, but I was, anyways. I don't know if this will get much easier, but I don't know if I'm ever going to publish this. But I feel like I stayed in my real voice for most of this. I don't know. I don't know that I got into my fake voice that I use all the time because it carries further distances and is more clear in a more understandable octave range, especially when noisy work is happening. But um, so yeah, I tried to stay present, except for having to read some notes. Um, I don't know if you're ever going to publish this, Travis, but uh, if you do, disclaimer: this is obviously not for advice on how to do things because I don't have a clue yet.